I'm Kier Top, and these are 100 giant structures from the past that no one has explained yet. The Great Bell of Damazzedi. The Great Bell of Damazzedi is considered the largest bell ever made. It was cast in 1484 by order of King Damazzedi and installed at the famous Shwedagon Pagoda in Yangon, one of the most sacred places for Buddhists in the country. According to historical records, the bell weighed over 290 tons, making it a record holder among such structures. However, the fate of the bell turned out to be tragic. In 1608, the Portuguese mercenary and adventurer Felipe de Brito captured Yangon and decided to take the bell away to melt it down for weapons. While transporting it across the Bago River, he misjudged the structure's weight, causing the bell to capsize the barge and sink. Since then, it has never been found, despite numerous attempts. Today, the Great Bell of Damazzedi remains part of the legends and national pride of Myanmar. Its story is a reminder of how culture, spirituality, and greed can intertwine in a single artifact, the fate of which remains a mystery to this day. Tunnels under the pyramids. Under the Pyramid of Khafra in Egypt, archaeologists have reported the discovery of a mysterious system of underground structures. A study conducted using radar equipment revealed the presence of 5 identical structures with sloped roofs and 8 deep shafts, each of which goes 648 meters into the ground. According to the researchers, all of them are connected by 2 chambers, each about 80 meters wide. According to preliminary data, the total length of the underground complex exceeds 1.9 kilometers. Scientists believe that the structures were created artificially, but their purpose remains unknown. Some are already calling it an underground city that could change our understanding of the scale of structures in ancient Egypt. However, not all experts agree with such bold conclusions. Professor Lawrence Conyers, an expert in ground-penetrating radar, expressed doubt about the reliability of the data. According to him, modern technology does not allow us to look underground at such depths with the accuracy required for such claims. He urged caution and believes that the discovery can only be confirmed through actual excavations. The Trilithon in Baalbek, in the foundation of the Temple of Jupiter, there are 3 enormous stone blocks that still amaze even experienced archaeologists. They are called the Trilithon. Just imagine the scale. Each of these blocks weighs almost 800 tons, and their size is impressive. They are about 19 meters long, just over 4 meters high, and about 3.6 meters wide. Even today, lifting and moving such gigantic stones would not be easy, and the ancient builders didn't have cranes or special equipment at their disposal. It is still not entirely clear how exactly these gigantic stones were transported and put in place. It is believed that the stone blocks were moved on special wooden sledges, using logs and hundreds of workers. Some have even suggested the involvement of aliens in the construction, but serious scientists reject such hypotheses. The Trilithon is more than the temple's foundation. It clearly shows the advanced engineering of ancient civilizations. Perhaps future discoveries will help unravel the mystery of how such massive structures appeared in antiquity. The mystery of the Ellora Caves. In India, in the state of Maharashtra, there is an amazing cave complex, the Ellora Caves. This architectural masterpiece, which includes 34 caves, is carved directly into the rock and represents a unique combination of Buddhist, Hindu, and Jain temples. The age of the structures dates back to the period between the 6th and 10th centuries AD. The Ellora Caves amaze with their precision and complexity. Some of them are enormous in size and feature exquisite details carved with astonishing precision. The Kailasa Temple is especially impressive, carved out of a single rock mass, and is considered the largest monolithic structure in the world. The technologies and methods used to create such complex and precise structures remain a mystery to this day. This has given rise to many theories, including suggestions of extraterrestrial involvement. Some researchers believe that ancient builders may have possessed knowledge and technologies passed down by extraterrestrial civilizations. This unique complex remains one of the most intriguing archaeological discoveries, offering more questions than answers. What did the largest ship of antiquity look like? The need for huge warships emerged long before steam engines and steel hulls. Even thousands of years ago, a fleet was considered the most important tool of influence and dominance. Through it, borders were strengthened, territories were conquered, and access to key resources was gained. It is believed that the foundation of ancient military shipbuilding was laid by the Diadochi, the successors of Alexander the Great. They were the first to begin building true war giants, such as polyremes and tesseraconters, comparable in scale to modern battleships. One of the most impressive ships of antiquity was the Egyptian tesseraconter, built in the 3rd century BC by order of King Ptolemy IV Philopator. It was a true floating fortress, 130 meters long and 22 meters high. The vessel could hold about 4,000 rowers, not counting the crew, marines, and supplies. The name tesseraconter translates as 40-rowed, referring to the number of tiers of oars. The exact number of oars is disputed. Researchers estimate the number to be between 300 and 600. According to surviving descriptions, the ship was heavily armed with a ram, catapults, and battle towers, and outwardly resembled a moving fortress. Its sides were decorated with carved wooden vines. Crocodiles and other mythical creatures were painted on the stern, and the bow was crowned with a 5-meter figure of Aeolus, the ruler of the winds. Inside, there were halls, statues, even libraries, and according to some sources, stables. All this spoke more of status than of practical military necessity. The tesseraconter was more a symbol of power than an effective ship. Because of its size, it lacked proper maneuverability and couldn't even go out to sea on its own. It was towed by rowing boats. Nevertheless, its very existence was an engineering breakthrough. The Egyptian tesseraconter is not just an archaic ship, but a vivid example of how ancient technologies could reach incredible scales. Yes, it never became a legendary warship, but it definitely went down in history as one of the most ambitious naval projects of its time. The oldest fortresses on the planet. Traditionally, we thought that complex defensive structures appeared only with the development of agriculture, but now everything is different. In Siberia, 10 fortifications built by hunter-gatherers have been found, dating back up to 8,000 years. These settlements, located on riverbanks, were protected by earthen ramparts and wooden palisades. The ancient inhabitants of this area not only hunted and fished, but also created ceramic vessels for storing food. Their ability to build substantial fortifications speaks to the incredible complexity of their lives. Many believed that permanent settlements with fortifications appeared in agricultural societies, but this discovery disproves that theory. It turns out that even hunter-gatherers could create complex societies. The abundance of resources in the Siberian taiga likely played a key role in the emergence of these settlements. These fortifications were possibly used to control and efficiently utilize local resources. Yonaguni Monument. Off the coast of Japan, near Yonaguni Island, lies one of the most mysterious underwater structures, the Yonaguni Monument. This massive stone complex was discovered in 1986 by Japanese diver Kihachiro Arataki. The structure lay at a depth of about 25 meters, resembling giant terraces and platforms, giving the impression of an ancient megalithic complex. The origin of the Yonaguni Monument still remains a subject of debate. Some scientists believe that the structure is a natural geological formation that has undergone erosion. However, the symmetry and clear lines resembling steps and walls lead many researchers to suggest that it is a man-made structure. Supporters of the ancient civilization theory point to possible similarities with other megalithic structures, such as the pyramids of Egypt or the structures in Malta. These hypotheses raise questions about what technologies could have been used to create such structures thousands of years ago. The most intriguing is the hypothesis of extraterrestrial intervention. Some researchers believe that such complex, massive structures could only have been created with the knowledge and technologies passed on by extraterrestrial visitors. The Yonaguni Monument continues to attract the attention of scientists and mystery enthusiasts from all over the world. The statue of Constantine the Great got its finger back. The giant bronze statue of the Roman Emperor Constantine the Great from the Capitoline Museums in Rome has had its finger returned, which was lost about 500 years ago. The statue's finger has quite a history. It turned out that since 1863, it had been in the French Louvre Museum, which bought it from the Italian collector of Roman and Greek antiquities, Giampietro Campana. The long-lost finger was part of his collection. Napoleon III's acquisition of most of Campana's collection enriched the Louvre's holdings. When scholars began to study the 38 cm long finger in 1913, at first they thought it was a big toe, which was also missing. However, it was only in 2000 and then in 2018 that it was determined to be the index finger of the statue's hand. According to scholars, the finger broke off when the massive sphere held by the statue of Constantine was separated from the palms and placed on a column on the Appian Way in the Roman Empire around 1584. An entire city at the bottom of a lake, Kyrgyzstan's mountain lake Issyk-Kul, one of the largest in the world, almost 200 kilometers long, surrounded by the ridges of the Tian Shan Mountains. It doesn't freeze even in winter because of its salinity and depth. In 2023 and 2024, a group of diver researchers explored the underwater area near the shore, and what they described in the expedition report sounds like the plot of an adventure movie. At the bottom of the lake, there are streets, brick buildings, and furnace complexes. Under a layer of loose sand, there is a well-preserved cultural layer literally filled with traces of human activity. Shards of ceramics, animal bones, and slag from metal smelting. Next to the buildings, they discovered a Muslim necropolis from the 13th century, a cemetery measuring 300 by 200 meters. It is neat and well preserved. People lived here, traded, and buried their dead. Then the water came and covered the entire city. The Tian Shan Mountains are seismically active, and geologists link the flooding to a major earthquake in the 15th century. The shore subsided, the water level rose, and the city disappeared. Apparently, there were few casualties. People managed to leave in time. After that, the shores of Issyk-Kul continued to be used by nomadic tribes. Small villages still stand here to this day. But here's what's important. For centuries, trade routes of the Silk Road passed around this lake. The main route went from the Chui Valley through the Badel Pass to China, and Issyk-Kul was not just a lake. It was a crossroads where merchants from dozens of countries met. Silks, spices, metals, and ideas flowed through here. And now, this trading post on one of the main routes of the medieval world lies a few meters underwater, along with streets, ovens, and a cemetery. Underwater excavations have only just begun, and researchers say it is well preserved. The preserved cultural layer promises many more discoveries. No one knows exactly what else lies there yet. Pyramid in Israel. In the Judean desert near the Dead Sea, archaeologists stumbled upon a mysterious pyramid-shaped structure about 2,200 years old. Built from massive hand-hewn stones, each weighing hundreds of kilograms, the pyramid still remains a mystery to researchers. The structure is located about 20 kilometers south of Masada and dates back to the Hellenistic period, when the territory of Israel was ruled by the Ptolemies and Seleucids. Already in the first week of excavations, bronze coins, weapons, papyri with Greek texts, pottery, and even ancient furniture were found here. All of this was miraculously preserved due to the dry desert climate. Scientists suggest that the structure could have been a watchtower protecting the trade route used to transport salt and bitumen from the Dead Sea. There is also another theory. It is possible that tax collectors were stationed here to inspect passing merchants. Later, during the Roman period, the structure could have been converted into a monumental tomb. Traces of burial indicate this, although unfortunately most of the tomb was looted. The deepest and oldest tunnel. In China, they want to reach rocks from the Cretaceous period, which are 140 million years old. The task is ambitious. They plan to cut through 10 layers of earth and reach a depth of 11,000 meters, which will be a national record. The work started in May of this year. While in Russia they want to resume work on the Kola super deep borehole, China is already actively drilling. Let me remind you that the Soviet Kola borehole project, although it was not completed, made an important scientific discovery and planned to drill the Earth to a depth of more than 15,000 meters. Work on the Kola Peninsula began in 1970 and continued for 2 decades. At a depth of 7 kilometers, the team had to face difficulties. Layered rocks were getting stuck in the equipment. Despite this, they managed to reach the final depth of 12,226 meters, but in 1990 the project had to be shut down due to an unknown explosion. Now, China is striving to continue studying the Earth's interior and plans to use its new borehole to study earthquakes and predict their occurrence. Another goal of the project is to gain a deeper understanding of the Earth's internal structure and its evolution. This opens up new opportunities for developing technologies and solutions that can be applied in various industries. Let's hope that China, with its modern technologies, will be able to find something interesting for the world of archaeology as well. A lost legendary temple of Heracles was found off the coast of Spain. On the southwestern coast of the Iberian Peninsula, scientists from the University of Seville were able to find the ruins of the Temple of Heracles, lost many centuries ago. Gaditana, a majestic structure where people came to worship from the farthest corners of the ancient world. Can you imagine how an ancient mythological hero can become the subject of modern research? That's exactly what happened to Heracles, who is known in Phoenician mythology as Melkart, the god and patron of seafaring and the city of Tyre. Thanks to LIDAR and digital modeling, scientists were able to study the underwater world in detail while staying on land. Ricardo Bellison, one of the researchers from the University of Seville, suggested that the remains of the majestic temple might be hidden at the mouth of the shallow Cigno de Sancti Petri channel. Marble and bronze sculptures of Roman emperors have been found here, as well as figurines from the Phoenician period, many of which can be seen today in the Cadiz Museum. Scientists were able to identify a rectangular area measuring 300 by 150 meters, where the ruins of the temple itself might be hidden. The Codex Gigas. I've already talked about this book, but it would be a mistake to leave it out of this video. The Codex Gigas was first published in Venice in 1499, according to unconfirmed information from the priest Francesco Colonna. The language of the book is a mixture of Latin, Greek, and Arabic, with elements of Yiddish. Its plot tells the story of a young man who is searching for a path to his love through the land of dreams. The book has given rise to a number of conspiracy theories. Legend has it that the monk Pisces was sentenced to be walled up alive for breaking his vow. To avoid punishment, he promised to write a book containing all human knowledge in a single night. At midnight, he realized that he could not do it alone. He began to pray to the devil, promising to give his soul if Satan would help him write the book. According to legend, the devil finished the work and the monk placed his image in the book. During experiments, scientists discovered that writing the calligraphy in the book, not counting illustrations and other decorations, would require 5 years of continuous writing. Holy water from the air conditioner? A funny incident happened at the Sri Banke Bihari temple in Vrindavan, India, which could have happened anywhere, but it looks especially striking in a country with hundreds of gods and temples for every occasion. Believers gathered around the elephant statue as water dripped from it. They decided that it was holy water from Krishna's feet. But in reality, the water was just simple condensation dripping from the air conditioner cooling the temple. For people who had never dealt with air conditioners, this explanation was not enough. The devotees continued to insist that this was the very nectar from Krishna's lotus feet, which the temple attendants collect every morning during the washing of the divine feet. The temple even had to issue an official statement to dispel the myth and warn people against drinking this water. The danger of such water is that fungi and bacteria can form in the air conditioning system, which can easily get into the droplets. This could lead to infections. But it should be noted that the stomachs of the locals are used to unfavorable conditions. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to buy food at street markets. When this incident was reported on television, the believers were even offended at the temple authorities for not warning them earlier. But how can you convince someone who already believes? This task is almost impossible. A tunnel to nowhere. Under Jerusalem, during the reconstruction of a new district, archaeologists were conducting a routine survey of the area. There was nothing ancient underground, a routine, almost daily job, until they fell through. Literally, they stumbled upon a natural void in the rock, and it turned out to be the entrance to a long underground tunnel. The tunnel stretches for more than 50 meters. The height is about 5 meters. In some places, the width reaches up to 3 meters. This is not just a natural crack. You can walk through it at full height. Part of it has collapsed. Part of it is filled with soil that has accumulated there for hundreds, maybe even thousands of years. And most importantly, scientists are sure that this is not natural. The tunnel was dug by people by hand. And again, archaeologists and historians have many questions. Who made it, when, and why is unknown. At first they thought it was an ancient aqueduct leading to a spring, but they didn't find any water sources nearby. And the walls are not plastered. You don't build water channels that way. Otherwise, it would all seep into the rock. Later, another theory appeared that it was a mine dug for the chalk layer, for building stone or lime. But that's just one theory. There's no evidence. It's also impossible to determine the age. They didn't find a single artifact inside, nothing to date it by. No pottery shards, no coins, nothing. There's only one clue so far. Nearby, there are ruins of an Iron Age settlement. If the tunnel was dug back then, it means it's between 2,500 to 3,000 years old. Just imagine, someone carved a passage in the rock as long as half a football field and 1.5 times a person's height. They moved tons of rock by hand. They spent months, maybe even years on this. And then this passage was forgotten so thoroughly that thousands of years later, we stumbled upon it by accident. And we still don't know what it was for. An entire structure without a single clue about who built it or why. Beer Quarry Cave. This Roman quarry was once a hideout for smugglers, and now rare species of bats live here. The beer stone quarried here was an important building material even in Roman times. 2,000 years of quarrying have created a winding system of caves near the village of Beer, which gave its name to this stone. The first Romans arriving in Devon noticed the limestone cliffs at the mouth of the River Exe. They discovered veins of fine-grained limestone and began to quarry it. When the surface deposits were exhausted, the Romans dug deeper into the rocks, extracting the stone with pickaxes and wooden wedges. This stone was used for the construction of important public buildings. The stone was transported to the river and sent by boat. After the Romans left, the quarries were used by the Saxons. Their workings were characterized by sharp square corners, unlike the Romans' round ones. Beer stone was easy to work with, but it hardened in the air, becoming stronger. It was cut on site and used for the construction of buildings such as Windsor Castle, London Bridge, and Westminster Abbey. The stone was also used in the construction of Christ Church Cathedral in St. Louis, USA. After the Protestant Reformation, Catholics held secret masses in these caves. In the early 19th century, smugglers, including Jack Rattenbury, used the caves to hide contraband from sea vessels. Stone quarrying stopped in the early 20th century when a new site was discovered. Now these caves are of special scientific interest because of rare bats. The Spanish Stonehenge. This amazing megalithic monument, known as the Spanish Stonehenge, is located on the banks of the Tagus River in Spain. Its age is estimated at about 7,000 years, which makes it 2,000 years older than the famous Stonehenge in England and older than the Egyptian pyramids. The complex consists of more than 100 upright granite stones, forming a circle and ellipses. Officially, this site is called the Dolmen of Guadalperal, and its purpose still remains a mystery. Scientists suggest that it might have served as a place for rituals, a temple, or possibly even an astronomical observatory. The stones are arranged in such a way that their orientation is connected to the position of the sun during certain times of the year. This confirms that the ancient builders possessed deep knowledge of astronomy. For a long time, the dolmen was underwater due to the construction of a dam in 1963, and only a recent drought allowed archaeologists and researchers to take another look at this amazing site. What inspired ancient people to create such a grand structure? Ancient children's handprints. Archaeologists discovered more than 100 children's handprints on the wall of a cave located in the north of the Yucatan Peninsula. The cave is surrounded by the ruins of pyramids, and nearby there is a ceiba tree, which the Maya considered sacred. Scientists believe that the handprints were made during an ancient coming-of-age ritual ceremony. In total, 137 handprints were found on the walls of the cave. They were made using red and black pigment. The black ones symbolized death, while the red ones represented life or war. All these handprints were made by children about 1,200 years ago. According to researchers, this was part of an initiation ritual when children entered puberty. The Mayan initiation ritual was intended for both boys and girls. Girls from the tribe received a shell to wear on their waist. and it indicated that they had reached adulthood and could have children. Boys went on their first hunt and performed a bloodletting ritual to confirm that they could be considered men. After completing the ritual, they received a white bead to wear in their hair, and until marriage, moved to the community area known as the House of Unmarried Men. When the Spanish conquistadors arrived in this area in the early 1500s, there were still large Maya communities here, and archaeologists are still uncovering hidden wonders. Treasures in the oldest tomb. In the southwestern part of China, archaeologists discovered an intact tomb from the Western Han Dynasty in the Wulong district of Chongqing Municipality. The tomb, discovered during rescue excavations before the construction of a hydroelectric power station on the Wujiang River, contained more than 600 valuable items made of wood, bamboo, ceramics, and bronze, dated to 193 BC. This discovery became key evidence for the history and culture of that era. The tomb remained submerged for most of the year, which contributed to its preservation and protection from destruction and looting. According to the project leader Quan Wei, the study of the artifacts will provide new insights into the lives of people in this region about 2,000 years ago. For example, the discovered jade vessels indicates the high social status of the tomb's owner. This discovery is compared to the findings in Shandong province, where more than 110 tombs from the period between the Jin and Qin dynasties were excavated. In the tombs, items made of gold, silver, bronze, and ceramics were found, and frescoes from the Wen dynasty period with traditional Chinese patterns symbolizing prosperity have also been preserved. The Book of Abramelin. The Book of Abramelin, written in the 15th century, is one of the most famous mystical texts of all time. It was created by Abraham of Worms, a Jewish traveler who allegedly encountered the mysterious wizard Abramelin during a trip to Egypt. In exchange for 10 florins and a promise to be religious, Abramelin gave the manuscript to Abraham, who then passed it on to his son Lamech. The grimoire contains only one ritual, but it is very complex. The ritual consists of 18 months of prayer and purification, and is recommended only for healthy men between the ages of 25 and 50. As for women, an exception can be made only for virgins. If all the steps of the 18-month ritual are fully completed, the master will contact his guardian angel, who is said to grant gifts of necromancy, prophecy, foresight, weather control, as well as knowledge of secrets and the ability to see the future and open locked doors. This text had a profound influence on the famous occultist Aleister Crowley, who claimed that he experienced several supernatural phenomena after joining the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, a British magical order of the 19th century. Then Crowley used the book as the basis for his system of magic. The Ancient City of Giants. In the east of Ethiopia, a team of British archaeologists discovered the forgotten city of Harla, built in the 19th century BC. Local legend calls Harla the City of Giants. While no giants were found, it was discovered the ancient city was a hub for jewelry craftsmanship and trade. The excavations are led by Professor Timothy Insall from Exeter University in Britain. He calls Harla a regional craft and trade center that specialized in making costume jewelry and fine jewelry. The population of Harla was mixed and consisted of foreigners and locals who traded with other countries in the Red Sea region, the Indian Ocean, and possibly even the Arabian Gulf. The artifacts that were discovered were brought to the mountains from Madagascar, the Maldives, Yemen, and China. During the excavations, many colored stones and remains of beads were found. This discovery overturns our understanding of trade in this part of Ethiopia, long overlooked by archaeologists. Previously, there were legends about the area where the city was found, saying that giants lived there because of the buildings made from large stone blocks. Excavations will continue next year. In a statement, the team of archaeologists said they plan to analyze about 300 bodies from the local cemetery to find out who was buried there in ancient times. Excavations at the imperial residence. Recently, excavations at the legendary Golden House of Nero, Domus Aurea, in Rome, led to an important discovery. Archaeologists found a rare Egyptian blue pigment, one of the most expensive and technologically complex dyes of antiquity. This discovery not only reveals details about the luxury in which the emperor lived, but also says a lot about the advanced artistic practices of ancient Rome. The Domus Aurea was built in the 1st century AD after a fire that destroyed most of the city. This palace became the embodiment of imperial power, with marble halls, artificial lakes, and frescoes created by the famous artist Famulus. At the site of the former workshops, archaeologists discovered vessels with pigments, among which a massive ingot of Egyptian blue weighing 2.2 kilograms stands out. This pigment was produced using a complex technology. A mixture of copper, limestone, and sand was fired at a temperature of about 900 degrees. The recipe was also described by Vitruvius, the Roman architect and theorist. The blue color was considered a symbol of divinity and eternity, and its use emphasized the high status of the patron. Interestingly, Egyptian blue was also used during the Renaissance. There is reason to believe that masters, including Raphael himself, were inspired by ancient recipes. Thus, the pigment from Nero's palace became a kind of bridge between antiquity and the art of the 16th century. The Forgotten Stone. In the very center of Lebanon, not far from the ancient temple complex of Baalbek, lies one of the largest hewn stone blocks in history. This gigantic monolith, known as the Forgotten Stone, impresses with its dimensions: 19.6 meters long, 6 meters wide, and at least 5.5 meters high. Its weight is estimated at about 1,500 tons. That's equivalent to 200 African elephants. Some researchers believe that the stone was intended for an even more grandiose structure than Baalbek itself, but for unknown reasons, it was never delivered to the construction site. The temple complex of Baalbek, known for its colossal megaliths, was built during the Roman rule in the 1st through 3rd centuries AD. However, the mysterious platforms made of giant blocks, including the famous trilithon, may have appeared much earlier. Who were those ancient builders who shaped and tried to move such massive stones? Perhaps Baalbek is the legacy of a more ancient and highly developed civilization whose traces remain unexplained. The monolith on Phobos. Phobos, one of the 2 moons of Mars, hides an amazing secret: a giant monolith. This monolith, about 85 meters tall, was first discovered in images taken by spacecraft. Its size and regular shape raise many questions among scientists. Some researchers suggest that the monolith could be an artificial structure left by an ancient extraterrestrial civilization. This hypothesis is based on its unusual geometry and isolation from other geological formations on the surface of Phobos. The monolith looks as if it was deliberately placed at this location. This discovery sparked intense discussions in the scientific community and gave rise to many theories. Some believe that the monolith could be an ancient beacon or marker left for future space explorers. Others see it as possible evidence of extraterrestrial activity in our solar system. It remained preserved for 20 million years. In the mid-19th century, farmers in Sioux County, Nebraska, began to notice strange things right in their fields. Stone spirals were sticking out of the ground, twisted perfectly like a corkscrew, as thick as a human arm, and some even taller than a person. No one understood what they were or where they came from. Pretty quickly, people started calling them devil's corkscrews because there just wasn't any reasonable explanation. In 1891, a scientist finally came to see them, the geologist Irvin Barbour. He studied the samples and found that the spirals were fossils, sand-filled tubes with fibrous walls clearly of biological origin, but he couldn't figure out exactly what they were. The first theory was about giant freshwater sponges, which seemed logical until geologists noticed that the rock around the corkscrews didn't look at all like the bottom of an ancient lake. It looked more like a dry steppe. Barbour switched to the theory about fossilized plants, but then everyone noticed the bones. Inside the spiral, there were bones of small rodents, and even in the Cretaceous period, plants didn't drag rodents inside themselves. In 1893, 2 scientists independently came to the same conclusion. These were burrows, ancient burrows that filled with sand and fossilized. Barbour didn't give up and said that the shape was too perfect for the dwelling of some animal, that no creature digs so perfectly. In the end, the argument was settled by scratches on the inner walls, claw marks that someone left when the ground was still soft and wet. In 1905, the culprit was identified. It turned out to be Paleocastor, an ancient beaver about the size of a marmot, which lived here 20 million years ago. With short tails, small ears, and incredibly long front teeth that grew quickly so they wouldn't wear down from constant digging. The animal braced its hind legs against the central axis and screwed itself into the ground, creating the perfect spiral. At a depth of about a meter, the burrow widened into side chambers for sleeping and raising the young. Sometimes there were separate recesses, which scientists believe were used as toilets or water containers, and the spiral entrance protected against predators. It's easy to stick a paw into a straight burrow, but much harder into a spiral one. Paleocasters disappeared when the climate on the planet became dry and hot, and forests gave way to endless plains. But their burrows still stick out of the hills in Nebraska National Park 22 million years later, with a shape so perfect that a world-renowned geologist couldn't figure out what it was for 40 years. Ancient tunnels have been found near Murmansk. Beneath the city of Murmansk in Russia, there is an entire system of ancient tunnels. In winter, the entrance to the tunnels turns into a crystal ice kingdom. There are rumors that these catacombs stretch for dozens of kilometers and the ceilings reach up to 12 meters high. And interestingly, they have been known about for a long time. They are even mentioned in texts from the 16th century. According to legends, these tunnels belong to the ancient magical people called Chakli. They knew the earth's secrets and how to extract precious stones. They aided locals and, as rumored, went underground, rejecting the new way of life. The oldest scientific instrument in England, a copper quadrant discovered in England dated to 1311 and about the size of a palm, was used to determine the time. This artifact is 15 years older than the famous astrolabe of Beethoven from the British Museum. Researchers point out the rarity of medieval English instruments and their significance for scientific understanding of that era. The instrument is valued at $130,000 to $190,000. It is up for auction along with valuable books, manuscripts, and a 17th century silver microscope made by Antony van Leeuwenhoek. Quadrants are believed to have come to Europe from Muslim Spain at the end of the 13th century. In these instruments, ancient time was divided into 12 hours, the length of which changed depending on the season and the latitude of the location. The first hour began at sunrise, noon came at the end of the 6th hour, and sunset at the end of the 12th. This made the summer hours longer than the winter ones. Quadrants were tools used by merchants, clergymen, and students. It is known that Queen Isabella, the wife of Edward II, received several such devices as gifts in 1358. The quadrant determined the time of day by the height of the sun, changing the trigonometric formula, which was accurate at the equator. Despite its inaccuracies, the device was useful not only for determining the time, but also for solving mathematical problems related to measuring distances and heights. Lydian artifacts. In 1966, in the province of Usak, Turkey, archaeologists discovered more than 300 Lydian artifacts, which are believed to have belonged to the king of Lydia, Corinth, or Croesus. All the findings brought a lot of trouble to the scientists, largely because of the gold rush, and the local residents believed that the curse affected not only the archaeologists, but all of Turkey. Now, the antiquities are on display at the Archaeology Museum in the province of Usak. In 2006, it turned out that one of the artifacts was a fake. No one knows who planted the forgery. The Metropolitan Museum of Art owners wanted to display the find. Archaeologists wanted the treasures, or perhaps vandals took them in ancient times. On the other hand, it could be a manifestation of the Karun curse. Medieval witch marks. In the United Kingdom, archaeologists are studying witch marks carved on stones found among the ruins of a medieval church. This church stood in Stoke Mandeville, Buckinghamshire, 700 years ago, but today only ruins remain. The discovery was made during their survey. The area is now being cleared for the construction of a railway. Only 2 marks have been found on the stones. Both are similar. A hole is drilled in the center with a line radiating from it to form a circle. According to scientists, such witch marks were used in the Middle Ages to protect against evil spirits. It was believed that this way they could be trapped in an endless maze from which they could not escape. Witch marks, or apotropaic signs, from the Greek word apotropion, meaning to turn away, were meant to protect residents from evil spirits. The Church of St. Mary was built around 1070 after the Norman conquest and was abandoned in the 19th century. In the 20th century, only ruins and a few old gravestones remained of it. Michael Court, the project's archaeologist, said, "The archaeological work we are conducting allows us to reveal British history more fully and share it with the whole world. Unusual discoveries like these give us an exciting glimpse into the past." And usually such drawings were called dials. There is also a hypothesis that they were used as sundials. The marks were found not only on churches, but also in houses, barns, and caves. Magical marks were usually made on stone or wood near the entrance to a building, especially around doorways, windows, and fireplaces. A set of jewelry from Saudi Arabia, 1,100 years old. The archaeological site of Daria in the Al-Qasim region. More than 100 gold ornaments over 1,100 years old were found in the ground, and they were preserved as if they had been taken off yesterday and sprinkled with sand. Pendant, gold discs, colorful beads, and a large disc-shaped ornament covered with colored stones around a central pattern. Scientists believe that all of this was once a single luxurious set of jewelry, which was worn on major holidays and special occasions. Floral patterns inside geometric ornaments are the signature style of Islamic art from the Abbasid era. That very caliphate, which was famous for science, literature, luxury, and trade across half the world. Everything is made very meticulously. The craftsmen hammered thin gold sheets, pressed patterns into them, and carefully set colorful stones. The stones themselves were apparently brought from afar. This means that trade connections stretched to this place from 1,000 kilometers away. Whom the gold belonged to is unknown. Maybe a wealthy family, maybe merchants, or maybe a pilgrim. Nearby ran the Basran Hajj route, the road along which people traveled from Iraq to Mecca. Imagine a caravan, 1,000 years ago, spending the night near this city on the way to the holy sites. One traveler is carrying a full set of gold jewelry, and around they found not only jewelry, but an entire settlement, stone foundations, walls made of clay bricks, plastered rooms, hearths, ovens, fragments of glass and ceramics. So this was not a temporary camp or a treasure buried in an open field, but a thriving 9th century city through which faith, trade, and gold flowed. This once again proves that the desert trade routes of that era were lively and wealthy arteries, not just roads through the sand. Stone chain? Before you is a unique architectural detail of the Goreshvara temple, located in the city of Yelandur, India. The temple was built in the 16th century and is known for its intricate carved elements, among which this chain, carved from a single piece of stone, stands out in particular. Carving such a chain from a single monolith is an amazing example of the skill of ancient Indian stonemasons, which inspires admiration even today. In Indian architecture, every element of a temple has its own meaning and serves a spiritual purpose. Such elements could symbolize the connection between the earthly and the divine, or be an expression of strength and eternity. The Goreshvari temple was built during the flourishing period of Vijayanagara dynasty architecture, known for its grand structures and attention to detail. The Risen Telemon. This unique atlas from the Temple of Zeus in the ancient city of Agrigento in Sicily is one of the most impressive examples of monumental sculpture from the 5th century BC. The temple, built in the Doric style, was considered one of the largest temples of the ancient world, and its architecture reflected the power of Greek civilization. The telemons, serving as supports, had symbolic significance, representing a titanic strength that held up the sky or the immense weight of the architectural structure. These giant statues, about 7.5 meters tall, were impressive both for their detail and their size. One of the telemons was restored and placed in its original location, demonstrating the sophistication of the ancient masters' engineering and artistry. There are myths and mysteries about the Atlas. Some researchers believe that the images of the Titans could reflect ancient myths about the confrontation between gods and giants, and their position in the temple could symbolize their subjugation. Others believe that such size and shape could have been used as depictions of extraterrestrial beings that the ancient inhabitants believed in. Ancient dice game. Dice with dots from 1 to 6 for a dice game were found during archaeological excavations in the north of India in Harappa, an ancient state that existed from 2600 to 1900 BC. A large number of dice made of ceramics were found by archaeologist John Marshall in the ancient settlement of Mohenjo-Daro. The dice measure 3 to 4 centimeters, are made of red-fired clay, and have shallow pips about 3 millimeters in diameter. The dice are exceptionally well made, with well-preserved faces and edges. A distinctive feature of the arrangement of dots on this die is that the sum of the dots on any two opposite sides equals the magic number 7. It is known that in ancient patterns, dots symbolize seeds sown in a field. Perhaps in the beginning it was not a game, but a ritual act, divination for the future harvest. On other dice, 1 dot is opposite the side with 2 dots, 3 dots are opposite the side with 4 dots, and 5 dots are opposite the side with 6 dots. Perhaps dice of the same size were used in pairs during the game. It is known that in the Harappan civilization, dice of different sizes were used as weights for weighing small objects. The Lost Tudor Palace. In Northamptonshire, England, a group of amateur archaeologists from the Collie Weston Historical Preservation Society found the remains of a Tudor palace that was destroyed more than 400 years ago. The team, which included people of different ages, began their search in 2018 using local stories. After using geophysical surveys and ground-penetrating radar, the amateur archaeologists found the palace walls. After obtaining permission to excavate in private gardens, historians from the University of York helped identify the palace. Archaeologists plan further research in 2024 to study the architectural style and history of the palace. The Tudor palace, known in the 15th century, is associated with a number of historical events, including visits by Margaret Tudor and Henry VIII. The last royal to visit it was Elizabeth I in 1566. In the mid-17th century, the palace fell into decline, and until recently, little was known about it. The tomb of an unknown pharaoh. In Egypt, near the city of Abydos, archaeologists discovered the tomb of a pharaoh that is about 3,600 years old. It is located 7 meters deep in an ancient necropolis known as the Mountain of Anubis. The tomb turned out to be almost empty. Most likely it was looted back in the ancient times. The name of the pharaoh was written on the plaster at the entrance, but it has not survived to this day. Scientists suggest that it could be one of the lesser-known rulers, for example Sinaib or Pentagene, who are mentioned in other sources, but whose burials have not yet been found. The tomb dates back to the Second Intermediate Period, a difficult time in Egypt's history when the country was divided into several kingdoms and was in political chaos. One of these regional kingdoms was the Abydos dynasty, whose representatives could have been buried in this area. Interestingly, the new tomb is built into the complex of the earlier and more influential pharaoh, Neferhotep I, and its architecture resembles both the tombs of the Middle Kingdom and those of later periods. The Ripley Scroll, named after George Ripley, the famous English monk and alchemist of the 15th century, was the result of his 20-year journey across Europe in search of sacred alchemical knowledge. The scroll is an illustrated recipe for making the Philosopher's Stone, which is capable of turning metals into gold. The original scroll was lost, but in the 16th century, reproductions were made, 23 of which have survived to this day. The Ring of Synicius. Around the 4th century AD, the Roman Silvian, who lived in what is now Gloucestershire, England, went to the Celtic baths built in honor of the god Nodians. After visiting the baths, the man realized his favorite ring was gone. He decided that Synicius had stolen it, returned to the temple, and prepared a curse tablet, which consisted of a lead bowl with a phrase in Latin. It read, "Offering to the god Nodens." Silvian lost the ring and gives half its value to the god. Until it is returned to the temple of Nodens, the man named Synicius will be sick and weak. The bowl was found by archaeologists in 1929. Mortimer Wheeler, a British archaeologist, established a connection between the stolen ring and the bowl, but it cannot be said for certain. On the other hand, the name Synicius was not widely used at that time, so Wheeler's theory may be correct. By the way, it is believed that Synicius's ring inspired Tolkien when he was creating the One Ring from the Lord of the Rings. Strange scratches on the stones. The Swedish island of Gotland is located in the Baltic Sea, and if you move away from the tourist spots and look carefully under your feet, you start to notice something strange. There are deep scratches on the stones, long, straight, clearly made by someone's hand, and not just one or two, but thousands of such marks all over the island, on boulders, on cliffs, on separate stone blocks. Moreover, in some places there are literally dozens of them on a single stone, while nearby there isn't a single one. When people started talking seriously about this in the 19th century, the first thing that came to mind was that weapons were sharpened here. The Baltic Islands were a center for trading swords and axes, and the sharpening marks on the stone seemed like a logical explanation, but it quickly became clear that the size and shape of these scratches just weren't suitable for sharpening. Not a single sword or axe from that era would fit into these narrow grooves. And the strangest thing is, no debris from work was ever found near these stones. No metal shavings, no blade fragments, nothing at all that would indicate anything was ever sharpened here. And then something interesting was discovered. The same kind of grooves can be found in Norway, Finland, and France. There they are called polissoirs and are dated to the Neolithic period, the same culture that built dolmens and erected menhirs. Similar traces have been found in Australia and India. All over the world, similar marks are found in stone, and that alone is already strange. Identical scratches created by people who couldn't have known about each other, yet nowhere else has as many as Gotland. Scientists have counted more than 3,600 such marks there. Some are right on the cliffs, others are on separate stones scattered all over the island. Scientists have suggested several theories. The first is astronomical. Many of the grooves are oriented toward the sun or the moon. It's possible this was a way to track time and seasons. The second theory is ritualistic. The symbolic marks are connected to fertility or death cults. And finally, the practical theory is that they were used for polishing wooden poles or bone tools, the traces of which simply haven't survived. None of the theories explain why people on different continents who couldn't have known about each other made the same shapes. Why are there dozens of grooves in some places, but none nearby? And why go to such effort on hard limestone at all? 3,600 grooves on one island, and there's still no answer. What do you think it is? Write your thoughts in the comments. I'm curious to hear your theories. A round man-made object was found at the bottom of the Sea of Galilee. In the depths of the Sea of Galilee in Israel, a huge sphere about 50 meters in diameter and around 4,000 years old was discovered. Who made it, when, and why is still a mystery. Researchers from Tel Aviv University and Ariel University continue their efforts to solve this mystery. They have even proposed a new hypothesis that might explain the origin of this mysterious object. After a detailed study using sonar and analysis of natural deposits, scientists determined that this is a giant sphere made of large pieces of basalt, located at a depth of about 12 meters. Previously, scientists believed that this could be the biblical city of Miriam, the sister of the prophet Moses, who helped the Jews survive in the desert. But now researchers are suggesting a completely new idea. Remember the legend of Akkad, the great hunter with a magical bow, who was killed by a jealous goddess. This legend says that the father searched for his son's body for a long time, found it, and buried it in the sea. Not just any sea, but the Sea of Galilee. Now, scientists want to understand what is hidden inside this giant sphere. To do this, they plan to conduct an underwater investigation using an ultrasound device. A luxurious Roman house. Italian archaeologists near the Colosseum in Rome have discovered a unique dwelling from ancient Rome with a rare mosaic made of shells, marble, and precious glass. This residence, dating back to the 1st century BC, has been called a true treasure. The mosaic depicts 3 large ships sailing toward a city adorned with towers and harbors. This indicates the homeowner's victory in battle. The main feature of the house, which was designed as a summer banquet hall in the style of a grotto, was lead pipes intended to create water displays. But the main attraction is the rustic mosaic with shells, Egyptian blue tesserae, precious glass, and white marble, depicting tridents, warships, and Celtic pipes. The scene with 3 ships sailing on the sea with raised sails against the backdrop of a travertine city may symbolize the high-ranking owner's military conquest, possibly a senator. The head of a perfect man. Archaeologists examining the ancient Tani temple, built at the turn of the 12th and 13th centuries AD, searched its base for a stone that had fallen from the roof, but unexpectedly discovered the head of a bodhisattva statue instead. In traditional Buddhism, a bodhisattva is someone who has reached spiritual perfection and chooses to help others break free from earthly attachments and suffering, escaping the cycle of rebirth called samsara. A bodhisattva is usually depicted with one foot forward, as if ready to step down from their place and return to the world inhabited by people. The discovered head is in fairly good condition. Its nose is partially broken off, as well as the left ear and cheek. The height of the discovered head is 54 cm, the width is 27 cm, and the thickness is 36 cm. Archaeologists determined the statue was made at the end of the 12th and start of the 13th centuries, during Jayavarman VII's reign. It is still unknown where the other parts of the sculpture are. They are probably somewhere nearby, but archaeologists have not found them yet. In Khmer art, statues of the Bodhisattva usually have 2, 4, or 8 arms, holding scrolls, flowers, vessels, and other sacred objects. The discovered head will be sent for research and restoration, after which it will be put on public display. The first Bronze Age fortress of its kind archaeologists have discovered an ancient fortress about 5,000 years old in the forests of Neams County, Romania, and modern LiDAR technology helped them make the discovery. Thanks to drones equipped with laser scanners, it was possible to see through the dense vegetation and get a clear image of the structure, which had been hidden from human eyes for centuries. The fortress dates back to the transitional period from the Neolithic to the Bronze Age, a time when people were just beginning to build fortified settlements. LiDAR revealed that it was a well-designed and powerful structure. Ditches hundreds of meters long, earthen ramparts, and a strategically advantageous location on elevated ground. All this points to serious knowledge and labor organization among the ancient builders. Only with the help of modern technology can we truly understand the scale and structure of ancient monuments. These are not just ruins. They are traces of a complex, well-thought-out civilization that we are only beginning to rediscover. The Knight Who Never Was Barcelona, Pedralbes Monastery. For the 700th anniversary of the monastery, archaeologists opened several 14th century tombs. They wanted to learn more about the life of the first women's community, and among these tombs was the grave of Queen Elisenda de Moncada. This woman, at the age of 30, married the 50-year-old, the King of Aragon. She became his 4th wife and stepmother to his 10 children, and one of the most powerful queens of medieval Europe. After being widowed, she founded this monastery and lived there until the age of 70, by the way. This was confirmed. There are signs of age-related osteoarthritis on them. Everything matches the story. She herself was buried modestly in royal clothing in a simple wooden box, but traces of gold-embroidered silk and fragrant herbs were found in the tomb, rosemary and myrtle. So far, everything is as expected. But then comes something that science cannot explain. In the tomb of the monastery's first abbess, a stab wound from a knife was found on the skull. In another grave, where according to all records a knight was supposed to be buried, there were no male bones at all. Instead of the knight, there were 2 adult women and 3 children. In the third tomb, bones of at least 9 people buried at different times were found. Among them were 4 male skulls with stab wounds and the mummified torso of a pregnant woman with the remains of an unborn child inside. Let's go over it again to take it in. The abbess of the convent with a stab wound in her skull. 4 men stabbed to death within the walls of the convent where there shouldn't have been any men at all. A pregnant woman with a baby right next to the tomb of the queen herself. This isn't an ancient battlefield or a looted cemetery. This is a quiet convent that the queen founded for prayer, and to this day no one can answer who these people are, how they got here, or why they were killed. Now, DNA is being extracted from the bones and teeth to understand who these people were, whether they were related, and if they carried traces of ancient diseases. Maybe they'll find an answer, or maybe the secret of the quiet convent will remain a mystery sealed away forever. The most mysterious people of Europe. Archaeologists have discovered an altar from the Roman era in a monastery on Mount Arionde in northern Spain. It is dedicated to the mysterious deity La Loraque. The find, dated to the 1st century AD, is important for studying the religious practices of the Vascones, one of the most mysterious peoples of Europe. This altar is one of 4 known altars to La Loraque, but the only one found during excavations. The artifact was discovered at the bottom of a well in the monastery of Dones Donestebe. There is an inscription on the altar, Valeria Vitella, fulfilling her vow to Lalaraka, free and deserved. Mount Arionde, inhabited since Roman times, is located in the valley of the Gulina River, not far from Pamplona. Its strategic location made this place important throughout history, as evidenced by the remains of Roman infrastructure and a later monastery dedicated to Saint Stephen. Little is known about Lalaraka, and worship of this deity is evidenced by only 3 other altars. The new discovery expands the known geographical spread of the cult of Lalarak. Giant fishing canals. Archaeologists have made a sensational discovery. In Belize, in what is now the Crooked Tree Reserve, 4,000-year-old fishing canals were discovered, created by the predecessors of the Maya civilization. Using data from drones and Google Earth images, researchers identified a complex network of earthen canals stretching for several kilometers through swampy areas. These unique zigzag-shaped canals indicate that people were already actively modifying the landscape at that time. Around the canals, archaeologists found jagged points that were probably used for catching fish, such as catfish, as well as reservoirs for storing the catch. It is believed that the canals were built about 4,000 years ago by semi-sedentary peoples on the coast of Yucatan and were used for more than 1,000 years. This coincides with the formative period, when the Maya began to transition to settled agriculture and the formation of their unique culture. Major landscape changes, such as these canals, preceded the construction of the great Maya temples, roads, and pyramids, becoming the foundation of their cultural development. These canals not only provided food, but also contributed to population growth and dietary diversity. Archaeologists believe that the knowledge and experience of these early peoples played an important role in the emergence of the great Maya civilization, connecting it with more ancient traditions. The archaeologists will have to rebury their find. The unique historical find will once again be hidden from human eyes for an indefinite period, reports Science Alert. This is about a tunnel at Alborada de Ecatepec, part of a complex system built many centuries ago to protect the city of Tenochtitlan from floods. The Spanish conquistadors initially failed to appreciate this local infrastructure and destroyed many structures in the early years of colonization. However, after colonial Mexico City began to suffer flooding, Alborada de Ecatepec and other flood protection systems were restored in the early 1600s. In 2019, archaeologists from the National Institute of Anthropology and History discovered a tunnel that preserved a unique synthesis of the cultures that created it. It was only 8.4 meters long and was just a small part of a vast system. Despite its Spanish architecture, archaeologists found several glyphs carved in stone with symbols from pre-Hispanic times. A total of 11 symbols were found, including an image of a war shield, the head of a predatory bird, and raindrops. The tunnel was planned to be ceremoniously open to the public so people could see the unusual centuries-old fusion of Aztec and Spanish cultural elements. But unfortunately, that did not happen. Due to the pandemic, funding was cut off, and because of a lack of resources to properly protect the remarkable structure, the tunnel will now have to be buried again, at least to preserve it from vandals. Researchers will construct protective masonry for the glyphs before resealing the tunnel with earth. A real Amazon was unearthed in Armenia. In the mountains of Armenia, archaeologists excavated the grave of a woman who, judging by many signs, was a warrior and died in battle. The burial is at least 2,600 years old. Taking into account the wounds found on her skeleton, it can be assumed that she was one of those very Amazons described by the ancient historian Herodotus. The unique burial was discovered back in 2017 in the Bover I necropolis in the Lori region. In the burial, next to the woman's skeleton, there were ceramic vessels and jewelry, which date back to between the 8th and 6th centuries BC. Analysis of the bones showed that a woman who died at the age of 20 was buried in the grave. Judging by the jewelry found near her, scientists suggested that she had a high social status. However, a more detailed study of the remains showed that she was probably also a warrior. The woman had a strong skeleton and well-developed muscles. The muscles of the upper body were very strong, which indicates significant physical activity. For example, well-developed pectoral and deltoid muscles indirectly suggest that she was a well-trained archer. Scientists associate well-developed femur bones with frequent horseback riding. The nature of the injuries found on the bones is also noteworthy. They were most likely sustained in battle. For example, an iron arrowhead was found lodged in the woman's left knee joint. At the same time, the wound had healed long before her death. Archaeologists discovered traces of 3 more injuries, which apparently caused the woman's death. Marks from slashing wounds, presumably inflicted by a sword or an axe, were found on the femur bones, and her shin was pierced. According to Armenian scientists, the very number of injuries suggests that interpersonal violence was a common aspect of life, and the nature of the wounds indicates that they were inflicted not by one, but by several people. This could have happened only in a battle. A 15-million-year-old fossil. Emily Bizdick, a volunteer at the Calvert Marine Museum, discovered a unique fossil of a dolphin-like creature that lived about 15 million years ago on a beach in Maryland, USA. The discovery was made during a walk on the beach where the woman found part of a skull measuring 76 centimeters long and weighing about 23 kilograms. Stephen Groff, a museum staff member, studied the fossil and identified it as belonging to an extinct species of marine animals, similar to dolphins, that lived in the sea covering Maryland millions of years ago. These creatures had an extended rostrum for hunting and reached lengths from 3.5 to 4.5 meters. They lived during the Miocene epoch, 12 to 20 million years ago. The reasons for their extinction remain unknown. The fossilized skull will be displayed at the Calvert Marine Museum, where scientists will continue to study it. The relics of St. John the Baptist. There are many stories about one of the main figures of early biblical history, as well as about the relics associated with John the Baptist. In 2010, during the excavations on the island of St. John in Bulgaria, a small urn was found containing pieces of a skull, a jaw, a hand, and a tooth. Nearby, there was a small box engraved with the saint's birthday, June 24. The authenticity of the find has been criticized, but these relics are more likely to be genuine than any others known to date. When archaeologists from Oxford University subjected the remains to radiocarbon analysis, it turned out that the bones date back to the 1st century AD, when St. John was beheaded by order of King Herod. Scientists have reconstructed the appearance of an ancient Scotsman. Scientists have recreated the face of yet another person who lived centuries ago. This time, it's a Scotsman. In 2015, during the reconstruction of the Aberdeen Art Gallery, specialists discovered a burial site where they found 60 complete skeletons and 4,272 bone fragments, which may belong to at least 381 people. This discovery halted construction work to allow for archaeological research. It was an adult male over 46 years old. Here is what he might have looked like. His height ranged from 159 to 166 centimeters, which is below average for that period. He suffered from extensive dental diseases, periodontitis, and a chronic abscess. He lost some of his teeth during his lifetime. Research also showed that he was not a local, but most likely came from another part of Scotland. Apparently, he and the other people found in the burial led highly physically active lives. Numerous artifacts were also found, including clothing accessories and personal ornaments. The Book of Soiga. John Dee was a famous mathematician, astronomer, and a courtier of English Queen Elizabeth I. According to legend, on March 10 of 1552, an angel appeared to him. Since then, Dee devoted his life to uncovering the mysteries of existence. One of these secrets is the Book of Soiga. The book is a code of 40,000 letters arranged in a strange sequence. These are encrypted magical rituals. Dee was never able to crack this code. Currently, there are 2 copies of the Book of Soiga, but the code still remains undeciphered. A German bunker in the Arctic. In the north of the Kola Peninsula, in the harsh Arctic tundra, stands a half-ruined German bunker from World War II. Officially, this is just an ordinary military facility built during the Nazi occupation of part of the northern USSR. However, over time, legends began to arise around it. Local residents and ufologists claim that it was not just a supply base. Allegedly, one of the secret strongholds of the Third Reich was located here, where the Germans transported equipment, artifacts and conducted mysterious research. In some versions, it even included experiments with anti-gravity and interdimensional travel. The bunker attracted special attention due to its anomalous activity. Equipment near it malfunctions, compasses go crazy, and tourists report strange lights in the sky. There were even expeditions here in the 1990s. Not only historians, but also esotericists. There is a hypothesis that the site is connected to the legendary Base 211, supposedly a secret Nazi refuge in Antarctica. Only in this case, it's an Arctic branch. Of course, there is no scientific evidence for this, but the fact remains. A nearly mythical story has grown up around this seemingly ordinary bunker, and it still excites people's imaginations. A spaceship in Turkey. In Turkey, not far from the city of Şanlıurfa, lies one of the world's most mysterious archaeological sites, Göbekli Tepe. This complex, which is over 12,000 years old, consists of massive stone structures arranged in circles. Göbekli Tepe is considered the oldest known temple complex on Earth. The megaliths, up to 6 meters high and weighing several tons, impress with their precision and craftsmanship. The stone slabs are decorated with carvings depicting animals and abstract symbols. This level of art and engineering raises many questions about how ancient people were able to create such complex structures without modern technology. Researchers suggest that the construction of Göbekli Tepe might have been connected to extraterrestrial technologies. These hypotheses are based on the unusual precision and scale of the complex, which, according to some, could only have been achieved with advanced technologies, possibly provided by extraterrestrial civilizations. Göbekli Tepe continues to attract the attention of scientists and enthusiasts from all over the world, fueling interest in ancient mysteries and possible contacts with extraterrestrial beings. Man-made caves underground, England, Shropshire, Kington Hall Estate. If you walk across the field and watch where you're stepping, you can notice a small hole in the ground, about the size of a rabbit's foot. Except this hole leads down into a large underground hall, and then into the next one, and then into an entire system of man-made chambers carved into the red sandstone with arched ceilings, niches, and columns. Officially, the Kington Caves date to the late 18th and early 19th centuries. Someone put in an incredible amount of effort to carve out these halls. The exact purpose is unknown, maybe for storage, maybe as a place of solitude. But legend has long linked this place with the Templars, a Catholic military order founded in the 12th century, which in 200 years became the richest organization in the medieval world. In 1307, the French king Philip IV arrested the leadership of the order, torture and executions began, and the order was disbanded. And to this day, no one knows what happened to the Templar treasures. The shape of the halls really does resemble Romanesque chapels. Low arches, a certain symmetry, and niches where statues could have stood. In 2012, the entrance was sealed off because of vandals and people who used the underground halls for occult rituals. Traces of candles and devilish symbols were found on the walls here. In 2017, a photographer published pictures of these halls from the inside, and the cave photos instantly went viral online. Most likely, this is just a beautiful place built in the 19th century by some wealthy landowner with a good imagination, and there were never any Templars there. But here's what's interesting. Even if you remove all the legends, the question doesn't go away. Someone put in a huge amount of effort to carve several neat halls with arches and niches into the rock. Why here? Why like this? And why at all? No one really knows to this day. Atlantis at the bottom of the Caribbean Sea. June 5th, 8,500 years ago. Time, 1 p.m. Suddenly, out of nowhere, an asteroid the size of a mountain crashes into the Earth at high speed. Bang! And its 5 billion tons heat the waters of the Atlantic to the boiling point. According to one scientist from Germany, this is exactly how Atlantis perished. The lost civilization that they say was flooded by waves as tall as Mount Everest. The site of the disaster is now called the Bermuda Triangle. Scientists used to think that Atlantis was somewhere in the Caribbean Sea near Bimini Island. They said that the Atlanteans were so intelligent that they could even create fire crystals to generate energy. But it seems that one of these crystals exploded and led to the downfall of the civilization. Skeptics, of course, will say that all of this is nonsense. But what about the numerous underwater discoveries, such as strange pyramids and marble buildings? the deepest well in the world. Next to the Nuffield Hospital in Woodingdean, near Brighton. At first glance, you might not notice anything unusual. A small brick circle covered with a metal lid. However, behind this modest appearance lies an engineering marvel of the 19th century, the Woodingdean Well, the deepest hand-dug well in the world. Its depth is 390 meters, and it has become a symbol of Victorian stubbornness and engineering perseverance. The story began in the 1850s when the authorities of Brighton decided to build a new workhouse and a school for troubled teenagers on top of the hill in Elm Grove. To save money on connecting to the water supply, it was decided to dig their own well. The idea seemed simple: dig down 120 meters and water should be found. But things turned out differently. After 2 years of hard work, no water appeared. The contractors dug side tunnels one after another, but to no avail. Then, not wanting to give up, it was decided to dig even deeper. In the narrow well, only 1.5 meters wide, the workers labored under incredibly harsh conditions. They laid brick lining, breathed through air pipes, and worked by the light of smoking candles. Heat, stuffiness, and the risk of collapse accompanied them every day. Construction costs were rising. Every week, the project cost the city £90, which was a huge sum at that time. And yet, after 4 years, at a depth of almost 400 meters, water finally gushed in. The workers had to urgently get to the surface, and it took them 45 minutes to climb up. The irony is that after such titanic efforts, the well was used for only 4 years. Soon, an efficient water pipeline was installed, and the grand shaft lost its significance. Today, the well is closed, surrounded by a wall, and securely sealed. But it still remains in its place, a reminder of those times when people, for the sake of ideas, were ready to dig, quite literally, to the very center of the earth. The Jian Station. Many experts believe that the most mysterious book in human history is the manuscript known as the Stanzas of Jian. It holds secret knowledge. Legend says this book was given to ancient civilizations by extraterrestrials. Apollonius of Tyana, who lived in the 1st century AD, became acquainted with these texts through Indian Brahmin priests, who let him read the text because they recognized a kindred spirit in him. He admits this book supposedly taught him to perform miracles, yet for unknown reasons, everyone who encountered the manuscript faced misfortunes. Mini Stonehenge. In the English county of Derbyshire, not far from the town of Matlock, archaeologists discovered an ancient ceremonial complex from the Bronze Age, about 3,700 years old. This place turned out to be part of a large stone circle that had been hidden in the forest for a long time. And it all started with the curiosity of a 24-year-old student, George Bird, who became interested in a lone standing stone in the forest, not far from his home. The stone, known as the Farley Farlamore Standing Stone, about 2 meters high, was previously considered a solitary monument. But at Bird's urging, researchers decided to carefully study the surrounding area. It turned out that the stone stands on top of a natural spring, whose water flows into the Bentley Stream and then into the Derwent River. Nearby, traces of an ancient platform were found, which was probably used for rituals long before the stone itself was erected. This suggests that the place was revered for centuries and held great significance for Bronze Age communities, especially in connection with water. Archaeologists also discovered 5 more stones that previously stood upright. Altogether, they formed an oval circle about 25 meters wide. This discovery added to the list of 25 known Bronze Age stone circles found in the Peak District, a region rich in ancient monuments, and confirms that ritual life in those times extended far beyond Stonehenge. Noah's Ark, found. According to the Bible, Noah's Ark saved people and animals from the Great Flood. And now, 5,000 years later, researchers have once again turned their attention to one of the most mysterious places, the Durupinar Formation in Turkey. This 163-meter structure amazingly matches the biblical description of the legendary vessel in size. Scientists from Istanbul Technical University and Ara Ibrahim Sesin University have been studying the area since 2021. A recent analysis of 30 soil samples revealed clay, marine deposits, and mollusk remains dating back 3,500 to 5,000 years. This suggests that the region did indeed experience a major flood. The formation is located just 30 kilometers from Mount Ararat, where, according to the Bible, the ark came to rest after the flood. The size of the structure is also close to the biblical dimensions. The estimated length of the ark is 157 meters, while the Darupanar site measures 163 meters. However, many geologists are skeptical of the hypothesis. They believe that the Darupanar site is merely a natural formation. Despite this, the discovery continues to attract interest and new research. Nan Madol is a unique ancient city in Micronesia, located on artificial islands in a lagoon off the coast of Pompeii. This mysterious complex, built from gigantic basalt blocks, is a sophisticated system of canals and structures erected on more than 90 artificial islands. The age of the structures is estimated to be over 1,000 years, and their purpose still remains unclear. Nan Madol's layout and building techniques are impressive in their scale and complexity. Some blocks weigh up to 50 tons, and it is still unknown how the ancient builders moved and placed them with such precision. This mystery has led to many hypotheses, including suggestions about possible extraterrestrial knowledge or technologies used in the construction. Local legends speak of magic and supernatural forces being used during the construction of the city. The ruins of Nan Madol remain one of the most mysterious archaeological discoveries in the world, attracting the attention of both scientists and mystery enthusiasts. This ancient city, surrounded by water and myths, offers a unique window into the past and makes one wonder about possible contacts with extraterrestrial civilizations. The fairy flag in Dunvegan. The famous MacLeod clan in Scotland possesses a relic that has been passed down from generation to generation. According to one legend, this flag originally belonged to the Norwegian king Harald Hardrada, and with it, the king set out to conquer Great Britain in the year 1066. After the king was killed, the flag went to his descendants. According to another version, which the MacLeods themselves insist on, the fourth chief of the clan fell in love with a fairy princess who was forbidden to marry mortal men. Her father eventually gave in, and the princess was allowed to spend a year and 1 day with her beloved. During this time, she gave birth to a boy. To keep her child from crying, she covered him with a magical blanket, under which the child would immediately calm down. Eventually, this blanket became the clan's flag. The flag is said to possess magic that will protect the members of the clan if necessary, but only 3 times. In the year 1490, under this flag, the MacLeods fought the MacDonalds and won. In 1520, the flag was used again in battle against the MacDonalds, leading to another victory. Underground tunnels of Cusco. In Peru, mysterious underground Inca tunnels nearly 2 kilometers long were discovered. The discovery was made by archaeologists studying the ancient city of Cusco. The tunnels connected the Sacsayhuaman fortress, the Temple of the Sun, and an important religious structure. The structures, built from massive stones, impress with their strength and engineering skill. They are able to withstand the strongest earthquakes typical for the region. Scientists are sure that the Incas used these hidden passages for the secret movement of priests and military leaders between strategic and ritual sites. Despite the legends about treasures, nothing has been found inside so far. Ancient conical tombs. In the Chapultepec forest, archaeologists from the National Institute of Archaeology and History of Mexico made a unique discovery. They discovered 10 ancient truncated conical tombs which are estimated to be 3,000 years old, dating from about 2,500 to 400 BC. These burials, resembling inverted truncated cones, are often called bottle or bell tombs. Their diameter ranges from 1 to 2 meters, with a maximum height of 1.5 meters. Human remains were found in 5 of them, including 4 women and 1 man, placed in a bent position. Interestingly, burials in rectangular boxes were discovered above the tombs, indicating a long history of the village's existence after the classical period. Among the finds, archaeologists also discovered burial offerings, deer antlers, concave convex bowls, fragments of slate discs, female figurines, as well as schematic figurines called ghosts. This discovery sheds light on the ancient burial customs and cultures of the peoples who lived in this region more than 3,000 years ago. Something is down there in the depths. And now, the last story, the strangest one. It's not about ancient times. It's about what's happening right now while you're watching this video. In the last 10 years, more than 3,000 autonomous devices have been launched into the oceans. Small things about the size of a backpack. They measure salinity and temperature. Others listen. They catch sounds and signals in the water column and decide on their own whether it's a natural noise or man-made. It works like a database. If such a signal has already been encountered, the device recognizes it. If not, it marks it as new and sends it for analysis. In June 2023, one such sensor in the Pacific Ocean received a powerful man-made signal at a depth of about 3,600 meters. The signal lasted for about 70 minutes, and then the source started going even deeper and disappeared. A few months later, the same thing happened in the Atlantic, and there, several devices detected the signal at the same time. And now, the reason for the whole story. The speed of the source was about 370 kilometers per hour underwater, at a depth of more than 3 kilometers. That's faster than most submarines can go even on the surface, and much deeper than they can operate at all. To move like that in dense water at such a depth requires enormous power and a special hull. Officially, there are no vehicles with such characteristics. Scientists started to take interest. Could it be military tests? Then there would have been satellites nearby, escort ships, warnings for vessels. But there was nothing. Could it be nature? Then the signal would have been picked up by seismic stations. But they're silent. Maybe it's just a glitch in the equipment. But 2 devices in the Pacific Ocean showed the same thing, and in the Atlantic, several did at once. The most rational explanation is a classified test of some new generation deep-sea vehicles that people just don't talk about openly. Research in the field of ultra-fast underwater travel is indeed being conducted in several countries. The technology has advanced a lot, and what is shown to the public usually lags behind real developments by years. However, the officially stated depths and speeds of such devices are noticeably lower than what the sensors recorded. So this version doesn't explain everything either. But the official story was never clarified, and the question remains unanswered. The ocean is shared, it's international, and someone is racing there at 370 kilometers per hour at a depth where, according to all textbooks, there shouldn't be anything at all. And this isn't a legend or a story passed down through many people. This happened 3 years ago, and the device recorded everything down to the second. Someone went down there, where it's dark, cold, and the pressure is like thousands of atmospheres, moves in a way that no one else on the planet can, and calmly goes even deeper. Classified tests or a rare malfunction in complex equipment? What do you think? Write in the comments. And here's what grabs your attention the most in all of this. We're used to thinking that the past is already fully known. Textbooks are written, museums are filled with different exhibits, all the tombs have already been opened, and then one coin, one book, one signal from the darkness of the ocean, and it turns out that we know almost nothing. Every year, the past throws at us something that shouldn't exist. And the most interesting part is where science honestly admits we don't understand yet. Subscribe and turn on notifications. A new video is coming soon.